Hey guys, before I start chapter 2, I just need to mention this is copyrighted work. I do not want this appearing on any other channel. It should only be on the Quantum of Conscience channel, which is mine. I was closing the last chapter, chapter 1, with I have to give even newbies a basic overview of what I think is going on. Very, very basic overview, even though even at the most basic of levels, they won't be ready for it. People just demand to be shown the last page of the book. So that is how we start chapter 2. Chapter 2. The rudimentary organizational chart of this reality is actually quite simple. The people who you think are in control decide next to nothing. Presidents, senators, congressmen are essentially playing a role. Yes, just like actors. The real power is something else. We don't know exactly what's behind the final curtain, but it's something else. It's not the clowns and buffoons that appear all over television. It's not Donald Trump. It's closer to the mark if you can understand that corporations are higher on the totem pole than the government, and corporate interests are simply playing their game with a chessboard of puppets who are the politicians. Of course, there are several levels, most likely above the corporations. I didn't want to imply that everything ends with the corporations. No, they are simply another puppet in this system. Everyone isn't in on it, though. That is one of the keys with this reality. Only very few people, or whatever they are in on it. Junior congressmen just elected to the House of Representatives are elected, and they go off to Washington with an altruistic view trying to change the world. These elections are most likely real. Junior congressmen do go to the House of Representatives, but they soon get in and they find that they're really powerless to change anything. The system is cemented, and they get caught inside of it. And most likely, if they don't rise up, they are more blind, these congressmen, to the way reality works, more blind than you and I, even though they're right in the House of Representatives. They are truly useful idiots. The quote system is way too big, with too many tentacles at this point for somebody elected to the House of Representatives to do anything. Now, presidents, and likely many senators, are not, in my opinion, legitimately, quote, elected because they get too close to the real power. Some senators, presidents, they know generally what's going on. Not sure they even know exactly what's going on, but they are privy to things at that level, in my opinion, that somebody in the House of Representatives, of which there's 500 and some, they don't have a clue about anything. And I believe they actually run, and the elections are legitimate at that level. Why wouldn't the system allow legitimate elections at that level? They can't do anything to change the system one way or another. Now, very simply, there is no two-party political system of Republicans and Democrats. I mean, people listening to this know this. This is written with the newbie in mind. Obviously, R versus D and elephant versus donkey simply doesn't exist. There is one group, or one entity of some kind, we'll ponder what it is later, that controls everything. For those of us who can see what is so pathetically obvious at this point, we're amazed that people still believe there's a group of Democrats fighting the old GOP and vice versa. They believe this political charade of fighting back and forth is real. In recent years, the whole stage show has become a poorly acted junior high school play. Nothing ever changes when a new group gets into power, does it? Yet people all around us think that politics, as it's presented to us in the news, is real. It's 100% fake. I mean, I'm making a side note here and going off the book. Look, right now we're in a supposed government shutdown. Trump is battling to get his wall built. Well, why didn't he build the wall when he controlled all three parts of government? The House, the Senate, and the presidency, all supposedly Republican. Well, why didn't he do it then? Why is he doing it now? Nothing could have blocked him when he controls $600 billion of the defense budget. It's all a sideshow. It's all fake. And it's actually pathetically acted at this point. Pathetically presented. The symbol of the United States is the eagle. What does an eagle have? It has a left wing and a right wing. It has Republicans on the wing, it has Democrats on this wing. Both wings move a single head on that eagle in one direction. The Republicans have red and the Democrats have blue, and both colors supposedly represent freedom, unless they're colors on flashing lights that are pulling up behind you on the freeway after you've had a few too many beers. It's also odd to consider why the colors of Russia are also red, white, and blue. A lot of countries have red, white, and blue. Russia has the same exact color set as the United States. It's just a coincidence. When you combine red and blue, you get purple, the color of royalty. That's no accident. That's why red and blue is in our face all day long, not just in politics, but in everywhere else, every time we pop our head up out of the water. Even if you're not following all of this right now, or it sounds nuts again, just stop to think about one thing. Just this. Consider how nothing changes in the trajectory of government or of society, no matter what party is elected, no matter what party gets control. Nothing materially important ever changes. Even for supposed issues that are completely 180 in differences of opinion on both sides, like abortion, nothing ever changes. We know now that when the camera's lights are turned off, that John McCain was drinking brandy and laughing with his supposed arch-rival Chuck Schumer. They all hobnobbed together in the back room. It's obvious. When the camera lights go on again, of course, they hate each other. Yeah. Who would buy the pathetic presentation that they're giving us now? We just shake our heads at the people around us, don't we, people listening to this? Look what Trump did the moment he was elected. What happened to all that talk about Hillary going to jail for scrubbing her computer before just handing it over to the FBI? FBI knocks at her door. We need the computer. I'll be right back. Goes and scrubs all the emails off. Here you go, FBI. Imagine if you did that. What would the FBI do to you? If anything was real, Trump would have instructed the Justice Department to begin their investigation of Hillary Clinton the day after his inauguration. She'd be in jail by now, if anything was real. Nothing's real. What happened to Trump's endless pre-election attacks on Bill Clinton? He's a rapist, right? Did you forget that he brought 3 women that Bill Clinton supposedly molested to a presidential debate? What do we hear from Trump now about any of that? Aren't they serious charges that should be investigated after he becomes president? Well, now Trump says the Clintons are wonderful people who did a real service for their country. What the F? People actually expect politicians to lie about their opponent and then to become friendly again after a tough campaign, the way hockey players line up and shake hands at the end of a playoff series. People watching on TV accept the lies and they say, it's all political grandstanding. We're told the lies and the attack ads are just part of politics today. That all happens before the election. But after the election, then they all shake hands and hug and they want to work together. So here's the key. People admit that a whole side of politics before the election is 100% fake. Everybody admits it. They would say, those attack ads aren't real, blah, blah, blah. It's all fake before the election. And when I suggest that the other part is also fake, what happens after the election? Well, I'm called a nut. If it's admittedly fake before the election, then we say, why not after? Of course, after. To anyone questioning this, did you hear what I just said a minute ago? For many months, Trump railed about Hillary going to jail, and he would see to it. He even said it in a debate the day after almost the election. The Clintons now have, according to Trump, done a wonderful service for our country. Who is buying this ruse? Unfortunately, most people around us buy the ruse. Now, again, a side note, most people listening to this know this stuff. This is more for the newbie. But it is fascinating to go over how people can accept what the news presents to us in terms of how politics works today. It is mind-boggling that people can't see through it as we do. I'm not joking in any way when I say this. The wizard, as he's portrayed in The Wizard of Oz, is a literal metaphor for political reality itself. You heard that right. The power of both the wizard in the movie and your political representatives are quite literally smoke and mirrors. This leads the newbie to the biggest question of all. Well, who then is the real power behind the real curtain, pulling the levers that actually affect our lives? Well, of course, there are several theories. But forget about that for now. Forget about what may be behind the final curtain or behind the final door. It's too early for that. For many now, I must simply prove that the hidden power actually exists. This is almost easy to do if you look at reality through a different lens. There are hundreds of examples anybody could pull up that proves there are many, many levels above a president or a prime minister, for example. I mean, just take the way George Bush reacted after being told about 9/11. Andy Card comes in, something like the United States is under attack, sits there in shock, sits there almost, if you read his body language correctly and look into his eyes, having a kind of an understanding of what just went down, but almost in disbelief that it happened. He wasn't involved in the decision. And of course, for any real newbie listening to this, no, 9/11 wasn't done by 19 hijackers with box cutters. We're way past that. Whatever went down, they didn't even include George Bush in the decision. And it showed on his face as he sat there and read that book to that second grade class in Booker Elementary. It was almost like he said, man, those fuckers, they really did it. They really did it on my watch. Kind of like the way, JFK Jr. might have heard certain things as a child crawling around under the desk of the Oval Office listening to JFK talk. That's all George Bush was ever privy to. He's not even close to the top of that pyramid on the back of the dollar bill. Back to talking about the ruse of the two political parties. I don't mean to imply that this control structure is confined to the United States. In my opinion, it's truly global, or almost global. Famous politicians like George H.W. Bush have been mentioning something called the New World Order for over 30 years now. Other politicians have mentioned it as well, like Henry Kissinger and others. Now, people don't know exactly what that means, the New World Order, and they think it must be a sputtering and stalled implementation of some grandiose pie-in-the-sky bullshit plan that they just can't quite get done. Guess what? In my opinion, and it's almost obvious, it's already implemented. Whatever they refer to as a New World Order is already here. It exists. It's probably been here a long, long time, but that's open for speculation. Either way, it's probably longer than anybody thinks. Now, what do they want then, those who crafted this New World Order behind the scenes way back when without anybody's say-so? Well, it's not money they want. It's not money. They have all the money anyone would ever need. The Fed can print up billions a day from nothing on a keyboard. Bill Gates isn't the richest person in the world, or Jeff Bezos or whatever. It's all new money. Anybody that makes the Forbes list is new money and is a distraction. They're not the richest people. That's an insult to anyone who has ever thought for themselves as to what size fries they'll purchase. I'll take the big ones. Mm-hmm. The old money in this world makes Bill Gates look like a pool boy. Now, since the newbie demands to be shown the last page of the book, demands to see the story's end before they're even done the first page of the book, that's why we're doing this summary. We had to give them something, a little taste of what's going on. This little section is the Cliff Notes version of that summary. And then we'll move on. Generally, there's us and there's them. Them is in control. For now. All hope is not lost. For now, them is in control. There's us and them. Us, we are not. For now. But we are two very different groups. George Bushes of the world and other minions like Bill Gates and Barack Obama. These are puppets that work for them, but they are not them, if you understand what I'm saying. They are not of the same thing that may be in the back room. The public figures who put their fat faces all over television control next to nothing. They don't decide on squat. It's the hidden, no-name figures of this world who are really in control, at least for now. There are those who play on the side of the system, like puppets like Barack Obama. and all the minions you see on CNN and Anderson Cooper, and the list goes on and on and on, George Clooney, blah, blah, blah. There's those puppets who bow down to the system, and then generally there's the rest of us. Now, right now, go into your wallet, take out a dollar bill, and flip it over. That creepy thing on the back, it represents them, quite literally, not you or us. It's a representation of them, that creepy pyramid, glowing eye on the back. I don't care what it's called. It's called the Great Seal of the United States. It still represents them, not you. It's their seal, not yours, designed by them for them. Trust me, you have more in common with the seals at SeaWorld than you do with that seal, the Great American Seal, on the back of the dollar bill. Essentially, them believe you are cattle and chattel and nothing more. They want what is best for you only when it benefits them. Only. They are parasitic and need much more from you than just your labor, your taxes, or your money. The idea is to get us fighting amongst ourselves so we don't ever fight them. However, the slaves must be kept comfortable in this system. The slaves must be comfortable as they row, lest they get upset and pop their head out of the water and say, "What's going on?" We will only fight the system if we reject our comfort and choose to exit the system. The problem is, a man getting jacked off on the couch by a warm hand every night doesn't leave the house very much, does he? A population in comfort will reject the notion of any fool who points out the lie. That fool, people like me, are called conspiracy theorists. The main reason why most people reject those, like me, who point out the lie, and they reject this entire presentation, for the most part, is because if my presentation is correct and it's true, they may actually have to do something about the situation. And you see, that something that they'll have to do leads to no more warm hands down their pants on the couch. Or if you will, getting up to actually do something about it leads to less comfort. And people can't have that in their lives, can they? Less comfort. No, you must be comfortable as you row. I can say no more now. I will say a lot more later. A summary can't possibly explain our situation to the newbie. It's mind-boggling. It takes years of study. This book of hundreds of pages is just the starting point in a lifetime of work. This book has two major sections. Part 1 is Yoda's famous saying, "You must unlearn what you have learned." That, combined with Morpheus speaking to Neo about the world that really exists. Welcome to the real. Unfortunately, it's this part 1, that breaks the reader down. It's traumatic. Once you see the world for what it really is, it's extremely hard to take mentally. A bit of depression is unavoidable. That's a best case scenario. Misguided people have become paranoid. A few people have committed suicide in these ranks once they see the world for what it truly is. I'm not trying to scare anyone. However, 99% of those who finally know the truth, they don't want to go back. Everything inside them says not only can't they go back, they don't want to go back. Anybody listening to this, you don't want to go back. Knowing this is somehow part of our life's mission. They don't want to be Cypher from the Matrix, begging to get back inside their old prison cell. Now, part 2 of this book must be read immediately after part 1, precisely because the realization of finally seeing it is so horrific. You see, part 2 in this book builds the reader back up to be stronger in every way. You will see that stepping outside of this reality construct and seeing the hell that is intentionally being created all around us can be used to strengthen yourself spiritually. It's part of the journey. Many of the smartest people on earth believe that the journey of part 1, being able to see it, can even have an impact on your soul or spirit's journey after death. This is the ultimate realm in the universe regarding the expression of duality, right? I didn't intend to design the book this way, but it's probably no coincidence the format of this book is the yin, the beatdown, and then the yang that comes, the spiritual buildup that comes after the beatdown. Just make sure you mentally can get through the beatdown. And I'm more talking to people that will eventually read this book, not the listeners now, because the listeners now, in many cases, know more than I do. Here's a quote attributed to Mark Twain. There's a lot of quotes attributed to Mark Twain. Who cares who said it? The quote by itself stands alone as truth. It is easier to fool a man than to convince a man he's been fooled. Interesting. It's easier to fool a man than to convince a man he's been fooled. Is that not the basis of our system? Now, once a person has been fooled, then the following quote applies. After they've been fooled. There are two ways to be fooled. One is to believe what is not true. The other is to refuse to accept what is true. That's attributed to Soren Kierkegaard, a Dutch philosopher. Soren, Kierkegaard, a Dutch philosopher. From time immemorial, those who run this world understand the latter is far easier to administer to the masses. The latter, which is they know people will refuse to accept what is true. They know that in people. The quote, truth of how the world really works is right in front of all of our noses, but very few can see it. It's the title of this book. This is the general concept of hidden in plain sight. The key to how this world works is simply the latter part of what Soren, I won't try to pronounce his last name, said. People refuse to accept what's true if they don't like it or it doesn't fit in their little molded worldview. If you don't want people to notice certain things about the world and you're the controlling puppet masters in wanting that, then don't try to hide anything. Don't sneak around in the dark. Instead, be blatant about it. Don't hope to get away with tiny lies. The Darth Vaders who run this world know the opposite tactic is what works on this population and species. Do the opposite. Tell the biggest damn lie you can fathom, because no one is looking for a lie that big. When it shows up, the lie is so big, so in your face, so impossible, so obnoxious, no one can even see it right in front of them. Again, hidden in plain sight. If a petty theft takes place in the middle of the night, say out in the Old West, the local townsfolk will put together a posse in the morning to seek justice. But have the mayor walk right out of the bank in broad daylight with 3 bags of silver in each hand that he's stolen, and no one even sees a crime being committed. A few people even hold the door for him on the way out because those bags of silver appear to be really heavy. The rest smile at the mayor and say, "Good morning, Mr. Mayor, good morning." One person offers a campaign donation if the mayor has time to write out a receipt for his tax deduction. If the mayor is doing it in broad daylight, well, it must be official, right? There's no issue here. There's no theft. There's nothing to consider. It must be official business. This is the basis on which a small group have fleeced all of us for hundreds, if not thousands of years. Simply act like it's exactly the way things should be. The way those who are now in control of this world got there, and essentially how they stay in control, is similar to how Axel Foley, played by Eddie Murphy, acted in the old movie Beverly Hills Cop, if you remember that. He didn't sneak into the custom house and run away when caught or lay low when discovered. When caught by security after he just broke into the customs house, Eddie Murphy, Axel Foley, he acted like he belonged there. He acted like he was the top authority. Not only that, he completely turned the tables and started interrogating the security guard who had caught him. In a minute, the guy who was just doing his job thinks he did something wrong. Again, this is similar to the concept of hidden in plain sight. Axel, played by Eddie Murphy, is acting so confident and standing so tall that no one observing would suspect him of anything. This concept can be applied to thousands of aspects of how our society has been crafted by those who currently run it. They simply act like all of the insanity on TV and all of the insanity out your window is perfectly normal. Government's taking 50% of your paycheck? Yeah, who would object to that? Just habituate the sheep to that. Another war in the Middle East? Well, yeah, isn't that to be expected? expecting you to go like 400,000 into debt in the first 7 or 10 years after you graduate in college with the new house and the new car loan. They need to pay $5,000 in taxes to live on what is supposed to be your own land. Multiply this type of list by 1,000, and that is the insanity that they call normalcy that they've habituated all of us to. Then the reality hijackers present the madness to us like it's just the very best a modern society can offer, and we should love every aspect of it as it's presented. You could be really bad off. You may be, what about those poor people in Africa? Look how good you have it in the West. It all seems perfectly normal until you look closely at each component by itself. Almost no one has considered any element of society as it's presented to us closely. It's all just blindly accepted, vaguely at 30,000 feet. When you see the insanity for yourself for the first time, you won't believe you fell for it. And for those who can see it, we look around to people that we live with and interact with, and not only do they not see it, it looks like they're thrilled to fall for it for the rest of their lives. They're not even seeing that there's a problem. In these circles, all these terms mean about the same general thing. Society, the system, the control structure, governments, the powers that be, the matrix, they're all generally interchangeable. There are various theories on how much, quote, normal men or normal women have schemed all of this together. Or potentially there was something else involved in laying down this system for us. If it wasn't just accomplished in its entirety by normal people, then by default there was or would have had to have been assistance from an outside influence, whatever you think that may be. Again, there's a long list of theories on what that may be, and we'll talk about them later in this book. One can use the term, quote, the matrix, without completely believing that we live in a holographic simulation as described in the movie. Related to the favorite tactic of, quote, the system, which is truth hiding in plain sight, the matrix presents truth and lies simultaneously. Truth is just what is. Falsehoods come after truth and are built on truth. The very best lie or falsehood is one built closest to the truth. That is why so few people can see it. The second step of the control program's playbook is habituation. They know that, quote, mankind will get used to almost anything if they can just get through the first few years where a tiny group may actually notice what's going on, what's being forced down people's throats, and they may stand up and object to it. The list of all the bullshit that, quote, we have become used to by now is also about a few thousand pages long. It ranges from a 14-year-old girl being able to buy the morning after pill without parental consent to the state of New York recognizing the term, quote, gender blender as an actual legal title and fines for employers who don't honor somebody that needs to be referred to as gender blender. When something new pops up on this list, a few people may actually stand up and ask, wait a second, what the hell is going on here? Who asked for that? The formula to combat the dissenters and these complainers is always the same. Tell the world that the people who notice something being placed up their ass are crazy conspiracy theorists. Then, if you're the control system, you don't plead with people through the news and you don't try to deny that there's nothing being placed up people's ass. You don't deny it at all. You just act like there's no problem at all. Or better yet, it's absolutely wonderful. You say there's something in your ass, sir? Well, that's exactly right. 4 out of 5 dentists recommend what we just placed in your ass. They make it seem like what they placed in your ass is the best thing in the world. And most people walk away believing it. Again, they do a great job of making people think that what is being implemented or shoved down their throat was actually asked for and requested by you and by society. People don't realize that most of these things are imposed down on us from think tanks, from the Rand Corporation. It comes down from Mount Olympus, see, not up from the people. They just make you think it comes up from the people. No one other than a tiny group of demented sickos asked for most of this shit. One only stop to consider the laws in many states, or who knows, even federal laws, that say a 14-year-old girl can purchase the morning after pill without a parent's consent. Now, how does something like that ever, quote, pass and become law? Were there tens of thousands of parents calling their elected representatives for months to get that one through? Were there marches in the streets with signs, "Let our 14-year-olds flush their babies without parental consent"? Where did that come from? Everyone can see nobody wanted that. So how did things like that and legal terms like gender blender, and I'm not kidding, another New York State legal term, you might choose gender bender. How did that land on our head? See, it comes from Mount Olympus. They are experts at imposing their will and getting you to think that in this beautiful democracy, you asked for it. You see, if as a group you intend to lie to an entire population for decades, you need a way to squash the dissenters by making them look crazy. Well, that's easy. Those who don't buy the servitude, don't buy all this crap shoved down our throat, are exhibited as freaks, as outcasts, as conspiracy theorists. This is a book about the nature of reality that escapes an entire society. Nothing is what it seems. Almost nothing works the way people think it does work. Remember the quote above about why so much can't be seen. The nature of the lie is so big, so impossible to fathom, so, quote, hidden in plain sight, people look right through it. No matter how much evidence that I have, most people won't ever be able to see it. The reason will fall almost entirely back onto one's bias of what the world must be or what the world must not be according to one's cemented worldview. People are statues facing only one direction. How do you show a population of cement necks everything that's happening behind their backs? Whether life is completely real or some sort of simulation, either way, you live in a counterfeit reality. What's more, a script of some kind is running. Almost nothing in life is as we're told. Nothing makes sense to those who choose to think critically about what is being presented, and nothing holds water when closely examined. Here's just the first of 1,000 examples about what I'm talking about. If the prefix oct, O-C-T, means 8, well, why is October the 10th month? Octagon means 8 sides, octagonal. If dec, D-E-C, means 10, like a decade, or decathlon that Bruce Gender participated in, why is December the 12th month? If sept means 7, why is September the 9th month? NOV means 9, not 11. See, this is just one example. If you're ready for a few thousand more things you didn't know about your world, here it comes in this book. This book will break down reality as you know it, but only if you can put aside your own bias. Everyone in the world fools themselves into thinking they are just cool, hip, open-minded individuals. Yeah, I'm open to anything. In this regard, most people are as delusional as a dwarf who spends years working on what's keeping him out of the NBA draft, his poor foul shooting. I initially thought this book would be something else, but it just kept getting bigger and bigger and including almost everything. There were about 10 major categories that I was going to totally leave out because I felt it would be just way too strange to include them for any newbie that might be reading. I figured the truth of this world can only be delivered to people in small doses. I also figured that in covering certain topics, this book would be banned by Amazon and Google search results. I've already been banned by YouTube and Google once through a series of copyright strikes via an old channel called Texas Shrugged Book. Then I thought, go big or go home. The truth can't be half pregnant. The final straw in including absolutely everything in here is the coordinated effort going on right now from Google, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Reddit, and all the other bastards to rewrite history with blatant censorship. If a social media company establishes a platform for people to simply speak about what they want to speak about, who the hell are they to be the thought police and tell us what can or cannot be discussed? As of 2018, tens of thousands of YouTube channels and Facebook accounts have been taken down or blocked. Somehow, certain companies were given the authority to monitor, quote, fake news. Folks, this is quite literally the Ministry of Information from the book itself. Then all the smaller sites followed suit. Reddit is like a message board where things are discussed in some sort of a thread. Now, they restrict their websites to topics approved by the Ministry of Information from 1984. Of course, the only information that is banned is stuff that's a threat to the system itself. If you want to spend your entire life talking about alien abductions or Area 51 or whatever it's called, or you dedicate a Facebook page pushing the idea that Toto is actually the Wicked Witch of the East and Dorothy's house actually crushed the Good Witch of the North, Facebook has no problem with any of that. Now start a Reddit page on Sandy Hook, and you'll be taken down before you can blink. If it was all nonsense, just the rantings of crazy people, why would they care? Why would they need to block that discussion? Right now, many reading this are answering me with a response that they got from society's script. Well, that would need to be blocked to show respect for the families. What families? But just go with it. Need to show respect for the families. That's what they say. That's why this needs to be banned. If that was on the tip of your tongue, you desperately need to read to the end of this book, or at least listen. It takes years to remove all the ready-made answers society has implanted on this zombie population. The TV show The Walking Dead is a metaphor for the masses, and right now, maybe for you.